All right, recording has started. So the theme for this week's live is finished. And I have something very exciting to show everybody. So if you ever come to my house and you see these kind of rectangular bottles, these are samples from Gulf Coast for the Prideful Goat. So
Sweet.
That is how I do the blends. And sometimes it's also how I discover that my rum finish barrels are undrinkable, which I still have those as well. Those are still down here. So, okay. Yep, still recording. Make sure there's no one that needs in. Okay, perfect. Looks like Bourbon and Booze is on twice. But that's okay. So we have been trying for a while to find a way to get a Prideful Goat product that kind of matches our brand, that focuses on whiskey enthusiast, that would be less than $50, which is really hard to do. And so when I first met Carlos years and years ago, he had some samples of Canadian rye whiskey that he was real excited about and he wanted me to try. And I did try them, and I thought that they were kind of hollow, and because of that, they ended up putting them in other barrels to kind of round them out and let them age in Texas for a little bit. And now we are 4 years past that, and we have some 12-year-old product that we're going to be able to release for less than $50. Wow. And that's what these samples are. And so what they ended up sending me was, and this was one that I was really worried about. This one is the 12-year-old Canadian rye whiskey that was aged in used Gulf Coast, Giant Texas Distiller bourbon barrels. Who here has tried Giant Texas bourbon? Did you like it?
Yeah. I didn't think it was too bad.
I don't like it.
I had it that one time down in Houston, down for the pick, but of course by then I had so much Prideful Goat.
I thought that it was way too oily. It's way too thick, way too much coffee flavor for me. And so I was a little bit worried when they told me that some of this liquid had been put into a used Giant Texas bourbon barrel. And it's actually quite lovely. Then we've got some that they put in used MGP rye barrels, which would be the barrels that we use for the Prideful Goat, right? And this one is lovely. And then there's 3 different ones that are from Tennessee whiskey. And I don't exactly know what the distillery would be because it doesn't taste like Dickel. They all have a real strong cinnamon component, which normally means Tennessee Distilling Group. But I think they've had these barrels for too long for them to be TDG barrels. And so I am now going through the process of using all of these samples to put together a blend to instruct the distillery what number of barrels from each source I want to be in the batch. But you're hearing it here first that there will be a 12-year-old age-stated finished Canadian rye whiskey, Prideful Goat, that will be less than $50.
Wow.
That will be released nationwide.
Nice.
And I am very excited about that. I just found out on Sunday or Saturday. So that's exciting news.
Would that kind of be like what Rare Perfection did, where they brought Canadian, they just did Canadian whiskey down and then aged it in Kentucky?
Yeah. So one of the owners of Rare Perfection lives like 15 minutes from here, and I had no idea he was involved with the brand. And he was one of the equity partners for Rosewood.
Okay.
Or no, Redwood Empire. Sorry, Redwood Empire.
Okay.
And he ended up leaving that brand. I think he still has his equity interest, and he ended up getting involved with the people at Rare Perfection. And so I had actually reached out to him to see if we could get one of the high-aged MGP barrels that Redwood used to release. And he got on a conference call with me and was like, I can get you hooked up and you can talk with the barrel coordinator, but I have this other brand I want to talk with you about, and it's Rare Perfection. And so we looked at all of that, and I can tell you the price that he's charging for that 25-year rye whiskey is probably 5 times what it needs to be to cover the cost of the liquid.
Right.
I mean, it's like really super expensive.
Like the $1,100 $375. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, well, I think he had a 25-year Canadian rye whiskey that was $5.99. But
in the distillery now, they've got several high age statements. And there's a rye, there's a Canadian, but anyway, they're all like $1,100 for a 375.
Huh. So, yeah, so we're going to be able to release something like that, but it's barrel influenced by used American whiskey barrels. Some Tennessee whiskey, some rye whiskey, and we even have some. Well, and then we have some pot still bourbon, and we even have some MGP bourbon. But the problem with the MGP bourbon barrels is that their overall age is younger, and so I won't be putting them in the blend. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different barrel sources, and 5 of them, the underlying whiskey is 12 years old, or so close to 12 years old that before we could get a COLA approval, it will be 12. So I can age state it at 12. And one of them is only 9. And so I may be doing a separate project with that guy. And then there's one Tennessee whiskey source that we only have 3 barrels of that. So I may do that as a single barrel. Maybe we'll do it for Patreon or something. It'd be cool.
Nice.
But any questions about any of that? It's crazy to go through this process because, I mean, like, I'm just a dude that likes whiskey and thought I'd talk about it on camera. And now I've got a billionaire distillery owner like telling me to instruct his distillery staff on what to do with $1 million worth of whiskey. I'm like, well, send me samples and let's figure it out.
Yeah, Todd, it's funny you just mentioned expensive 375s. My wife and I just did preservation this past weekend, and yeah, it's kind of shocking to see some of those. I can't imagine they're good enough to justify that price.
Yeah, I coughed when I bought the Old Man Winter, and it was like $149 or whatever. And I thought I was, and they're like, "Oh, but you might want to take a look at these." And I was like, "No, I don't even want. I see the price tag. I don't want to take a look at them. I don't want to glance at them."
I thought the Old Man Winter was actually pretty good compared to the other ones in the lineup.
Yeah.
But did they tell you and admit that they put MGP in that? They mix it in their distillate?
I went this summer, and they hadn't said that, but I guess since then they are saying that.
Yeah. Still good.
Yeah.
Maybe they saw the press that 13th Colony was getting and were like, oh shit.
Yeah.
We better We better start telling people what we're doing. And for the record, I did buy a second open bottle of 13th Colony Double Oak today because I still love the whiskey. But I have reached out to them and asked them to correct their label, and then I would do a follow-up piece, and they did not respond to my request. So I do not expect them to get compliant anytime soon until somebody from the TTB actually gets involved and threatens to fine them for submitting fraudulent labels. I don't think they're going to tell the truth, which is sad. Somebody else jumped in the comments the other day and was like, you know, I went there and they said blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. Did you watch the video? Because here's all the reasons that can't be true.
Yeah, a friend of mine had said he went there. They said they used that still, and I'm like, I sent him the link to the video. I'm like, they can't be using that still.
No, they might use it. I don't know what for. No one that I've ever talked to has been there when the still was running. And so maybe they use it some. I was hoping that they used it the way that Bowman uses it to run the, completely stripped out column still new make through a pot still, which is, I don't know, like running water that's been through reverse osmosis through a coffee filter. Like it's not going to take anything else out. Like you've already done all of the filtering, but I was hoping they at least did that. And they're like, see, we distilled it, but they wouldn't answer that question either. So what do y'all think about Wes?
I can respect it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did the explanation because obviously everybody makes up their own conclusion when they don't know the actual ones.
Yeah, I hate to see him go. It's honestly kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because he's got to sit over here and watch me drink all the whiskey he can't have anymore.
Yeah, I saw his announcement on Facebook a few weeks ago that he put out.
Yeah. I figured that the people that are real involved in the group would not need to watch the episode because they know what it was. But I mean, we filmed that. What was that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Something popped up.
No, go ahead. Calling the cat. Sorry.
But we filmed that a week ago on Monday. And I said, well, go ahead and, because we had some other stuff that was already recorded and whatnot. And I said, well, go ahead and release that. And he goes, well, we still have episodes where I was drinking in the video. And I said, well, it's in the script that I explained to people that we don't release them in order. And that's why you've been seeing less and less, And, but while he was here, he kept picking up bottles and taking the cork off and smelling them. And I'm like, he's not 100% over his love of whiskey. And he actually said, he's like, man, I just miss the taste. He said, I really miss the taste.
He told me like last month that he was dropping out of drinking and stuff. And I immediately said, hey, what you doing with that bar at your house? And so he offloaded quite a bit to us.
I got first pick.
Yeah.
And I must apologize to everybody. I took almost all of the really hard to find bottles. But in my defense, I had given those to him for the most part. As payment for the podcast. But no, he did me a solid. In other similar news, I am sitting here with Sagamore A and a cigar blend and Jack 10 and 12 and C923 and a ice cider cask and 2 Russell's 13s and a bunch of other stuff because my other friend that I've been doing reviews with, Aaron, also quit drinking.
Oh my God.
And so, I don't remember what day it was, but sometime last week, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, Aaron reached out to me and he was like, "Hey man, not gonna be able to be on the show anymore. I've decided to quit drinking." And I'm like, just like with Wes, I'm like, "Man, I support you, totally get it, not for everybody." But I'm like, "Shit, man. Is being a co-host on my show like making people quit drinking?" Like, how did it happen to two people in such quick succession,
Mm.
All right, so what's everyone drinking?
Uh-uh.
We'll start with Todd Taylor because you're at my top left.
I'm drinking a Rabbit Hole Derringer cask strength. It was the barrel pick for Bourbon and Beyond in 2023. It's 114.
I love me some Derringer.
So
Man.
Derringer on it.
Barrel strength Derringer. That sounds good.
I love Derringer. I love Cave Sauvignon. He's a really generous guy, really nice guy. Has anybody been watching the podcast long enough to have seen my interview of Cave?
Yes.
I think so.
So the behind the scenes was, I had planned. He had a national brand ambassador that had done some stuff with Someone Say Whiskey, and I used that relationship and said, like, "Hey, I'm coming to Kentucky, and I'd like to feature Rabbit Hole." And I said, "I heard that Cave has what's probably the world's largest collection of pre-prohibition bourbons." And the guy's like, "Yeah, that's true." And I said, "Well, I can come and do a distillery feature and talk about, Rabbit Hole and all of your different SKUs, and we can taste everything and all that stuff." I said, "But I'm going to be honest with you, no one's going to watch it." I said, "But my biggest episode was with Dwayne Poor, where I featured one of the US's largest private whiskey collections. And if you want to get a ton of exposure for Rabbit Hole, we should probably make the episode about Cave's collection, and then it'll come up that he owns Rabbit Hole, and we can, mention everything that they're doing." And he's like, "Sounds like a great idea." And so I show up, and this is before I'd hired Wes, so I didn't have a producer. I'm traveling with my own camera equipment, my own sound equipment, and everything. And so I show up, and I'm like, "All right, where's the collection?" And Cave's like, "There's 5 or 6 bottles upstairs in the display case, but the main collection's at my house." And I'm like, "Are we going to your house?" And he's like, "Well, I wasn't planning on it." And I'm like, "Then what am I doing here?" Like, and he's like, I'm here filming a podcast." And I was like, "Okay, I guess we'll switch gears." And so that was not supposed to happen. We were not supposed to be filming in the tasting room. The filming environment was terrible. It's a concrete floor. You're surrounded by glass. Everything reverberates. And so I came up with a plan. I was like, "Well, let's film in a couple different locations. We can go down and stand next to some barrels for a while and blah, blah, blah." And so we filmed for probably 20 minutes or so. And then I was like, "All right, cut. Let's go to the second filming location." And he was on a time schedule. He had someplace to go. He had another meeting to go to. And so I went to go gather up all the equipment so I could move it. And at the time I had a soundboard that if it lost power, it wasn't rendering the audio file onto the SD card while you were recording. Somehow it stored it all and it rendered it all at once you told it to stop recording. And so I was trying to get all of the stuff together, and I unplugged the like master plug before I went over to like shut off the soundboard. And I realized I just lost audio. And so there's Kaveh sitting there. And I turn and I look at him and I'm just like, I'm sorry, but I just lost the recording that we just completed and we have to start over. And he was like, no problem. It happens. It didn't the first time it happened to me. It's fine. It'll probably be better the second time. And we started over and recorded. We decided to stay in one location because we didn't have enough time. And he turned out to be one of the nicest dudes. And I've always really enjoyed his brand. So I love Kaveh for that. So, all right, Jason, Melissa, what are y'all drinking?
Barrel Dovetail.
Solid. I don't really have any stories about Barrel, except for they had a brand rep that lived here in Texas named Jessica, and she was a party looking for a place to happen. She's still around. She helps with the Houston Whiskey Social, but she's like real crude and crass, and she's like always taking smoke breaks, and you can like tell she'll fight you. You know what I mean? And I love her. She's tons of fun. James, what are you drinking?
Well, I started with Barrel Seagrass earlier. I just recently bought 4 of the barrels: the Seagrass, the 35, the Rye 4, and the Foundation. All great. I love the Seagrass. And then now I've just finished RD1, the maple and oak finish. Really good. I got all the RD1s too, all 4 of the RD1s to try. And the Ambriana is really good. But drinking the maple tonight.
Nice.
You got RD1 stories?
RD1, no. Unfortunately I don't. I do have a bottle of Barrel Seagrass.
Oh, that stuff is so good.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, Seagrass. It's been getting a little bit of love from the folks that. So I've got all these bottles behind me. So for those of you who've been tasting, the guests get to pick what they drink, and so there's so many open bottles I don't really notice what's been getting hit. So every so often there'll be a bottle I haven't thought about in a while, and I'll go check it out, and I'm like, oh, I guess people are drinking that one. Because I got the Seagrass for Lindsay because it's finished with that Martinique rum and Madeira, and it's a little bit sweeter, and I thought she might like it because she likes the Angel's Envy Caribbean rum cask rye, and it wasn't her thing, but apparently people have been drinking it, so that's good. All right, Gary, what do you got on deck?
Yeah.
Cigar blend. You said finished was the subject, so I was like, well, that's an easy choice.
I've been out of cigar blend for, I don't know, well over a year. And I just got that bottle from Aaron, who was dropping off the bottles that I rated from his collection. So maybe I should have a little pour of that. So my obsession, do y'all know why Joseph Magnus has a cigar blend? Because Nancy Fraley was their master blender, and she's a huge cigar person. And so she kind of made it for herself. And I'm obsessed with Nancy Fraley. I absolutely adore her. Her laughter is like, remember Monsters Inc., where laughter like created energy? That's Nancy's laugh. Like, I could live a long time on one of Nancy's laughs. But when I met her, I don't really smoke cigars. So I went to the local cigar shop and I said, I want to know what your most expensive cigar is that's not due to size. And they got some cigar out and I was like, I'll take that one. And then I brought her that one because I just wanted to get her a nice gift. And compared to some other hobbies, even the most expensive cigar is not all that expensive. I get that if you smoke multiple cigars in a night, you don't want to be smoking, $30, $40, $50 cigars. But if you're buying somebody a nice gift, it's not a big deal to drop, $30, $40. So unfortunately, I don't remember what I got her, but I do love Joseph Magnus. All right, Sammy.
Drinking the cat Scotch cask, peated Scotch cask.
Of course you are. I knew you were going to slide some scotch in there somehow.
It's easy to do.
Well, yeah, with your collection for sure. So I don't. Some of these Tennessee barrels that I have, they have a smoke flavor, but it's not quite like a Isla cask smoke. And they're spicy. It's got a strong cinnamon component, but they're spicy. And at one point I was like, it almost is spicy like capsaicin. And one of the samples. And so I keep going back and sampling them, and I'm finding a little bit of it in each one, depending on which order I taste them in. So I think it just might be the barrel source. It has a little bit of smoke and a little bit of cinnamon that comes across as extra spice. But I think when we mix it with some of these other sweet ones, it's going to be nice. But it may be something that appeals to a Isla drinker, because there is a little bit of smoke in there. All right, Jamie, what you drinking?
Starting off with the Midsummer's Night Dram, Act 11, Scene 7. Starting off with that, I think I'm gonna have some Joseph Magnus here after a bit.
Yeah, I switched
194.
Which one?
194.
I got 181.
253 here, and I don't know what the other batch is back there.
Yeah, I kind of looked mine up. They said it's supposed to be a strawberry type thing or something. They nicknamed it the Voodoo Child after Jimi Hendrix or something.
Yeah, I get strawberry on a lot of high age MGP bourbon, and so that would kind of make sense. So other exciting news: who participated in the unallocated cigar blend thing? I know Sammy was there. Did anybody else come to that at Iron Root? No. So we did the kind of a blending competition where I actually still have one of the bottles. So I don't know if y'all can see that, but there's little oak cubes in there. And there's a company called Interstave that makes oak cubes for finishing. But instead of taking, 3 to 9 months, it takes like 3 weeks. It's like really fast, and it imparts flavor like super quick. And so we gave everybody 4 component flavors and let them blend them and create the best blend. And then we had a blending competition, and that is going to be released as a finished single barrel for all of you all patrons. We're just waiting for the approval on the cola before we can order the labels, and then we'll know. But because of the success of the rum finish rye release, and we needed to do another special release for the Prideful Goat, I think that, and Sammy, was it your blend that won?
It was.
So I'm going to use your blend to do a nationwide release of a cigar finished rye whiskey.
Oh,
Nice.
So it's going to be different than what we did with unallocated, because unallocated has all bourbon barrels. But I don't know that I've seen a cigar finished rye, or at least not many of them. And I personally think that the spice from cigar pairs pretty nicely with the spice from rye pairs pretty nicely with the cigar.
So of course it's going to be called Sammy's Blend, right?
I don't know about that. But I did present the idea to Carlos, and he greenlit the project. So that's kind of cool, and that's from Patreon support. So that's pretty awesome. I mean, I figure why reinvent the wheel? We already did a crap ton of testing, and when I did the blind, me and Alex both agreed unanimously immediately that was the number one blend. And so no reason to reinvent the wheel, use that equation. So that will probably be towards the end of the year, if I had to guess. But that's kind of cool news.
Yeah.
And other really cool news, I'm going to be launching a ambassador program for the Prideful Goat. And individuals are going to be able to submit to become a Prideful Goat ambassador. If accepted, you'll be put through an online training program. There'll be an exit exam. Once you pass, you'll be sent, your package of swag with your, pop-up sign and a table runner for tastings, and you'll be given instructions on how to submit expense reports for payments and all of that stuff. And then after a certain amount of time and a number of successful tastings, you'll be able to apply to go the next level and actually work on points of distribution to promote single barrel picks and things like that. And if successful enough in that role, it could even lead to a full-time ambassador position. So kind of excited about that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for retired individuals that are passionate about whiskey, that want something to do that they find is fun. But we'll see how all of that goes.
Doesn't that go a little against your grain?
What do you mean?
Just I know you'd mentioned in previous groups here that like being upset with distributors because you feel like you're having.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm planning a podcast called Fired: Why I Fired My California Wholesaler. And he has until tomorrow to give me an acceptable response. But I have a wholesaler in California that I have a email chain, and I'm not joking when I say this, where it took 15 emails over a month and a half for him to respond to one question, right? And he's not doing anything he says he's going to do. I asked him to pick up, I mean, like, just behind the scenes, y'all saw that when we released the review of the 8-year, that both Seelbach and Bourbon Outfitter sold out in an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in a weird position because if I go to him and I go, hey, I have a new limited edition, I want you to bring some of it in, and they go, all right, well, we'll help you out. That's literally what one of them said. We'll help you out. But they only want to bring in 5 cases, which is 30 bottles of each SKU. I'm like, you think I'm not going to blow through 30 bottles of each SKU? That's crazy. But I can't argue with them because every small producer goes, no, you don't understand the demand for my product, And so they're like kind of immune to it. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll let you run out. And sure enough, they run out, and I reached out to them, and immediately Seelbach was like, we'll put in a PO tomorrow and we'll let our inventory go negative and tell people like it's going to add an extra week for processing. And I'm like, well, I'd rather that than the people that are finding this video go and see that they're sold out, because a week from now, they're going to forget about it. Right. So go ahead and do that. But I've got that going on at the same time. I've got my California wholesaler going, well, we just need to make sure that there's going to be sales for this product. And I'm like, well, why don't you just do your fucking job? Because I'm not supposed to sell my product. You're paid to sell my product. You make more money per bottle than I do. For what? For delivery services? You think I can't get delivery services for less than what I'm paying you? I could if it wasn't illegal. And so I'm yes, it irritates me to no end that we need ambassadors at all. But I've also resigned myself to the fact that there are no wholesalers that are going to keep focused on my brand. That's not how they make money. They make money by signing brands. They make money from the initial bump of the pinup demand that's in their market whenever they bring the product there for the first time. And then they wait to see whether or not the brand is going to do their sales job for them, and they want to handle logistics. And there ain't nothing I can do about it because the 3-tier system is the 3-tier system. And so, yes, it's irritating. But the people who win are not the ones that know the way that things are supposed to be. The people that win are the ones that know what to do in the environment that they live in. And so that is as thorough of an answer as I can provide for that question. But yes, it's irritating. So that's exciting new news. Anybody think that's crazy? I've had a few people ask. And I had actually presented this idea last year, I think around September, and nobody paid any attention to it. Literally just like ignored the email internally. And I was like, okay, I'll take that as a no. But after having gone through the experience of trying to reach out to all the wholesalers about picking up these limited time offer bottles, it's like, if you don't provide like in-market support for these guys, they're never going to do it for you. They're never going to do it. So I am officially going to Alaska. So that's, I don't know. So Brown Jug selected a barrel and they asked for exclusivity. Well, actually, it's kind of a funny story. Along the lines of your question, Todd, I'm reaching out to all of my wholesalers and saying, hey, I have these LTOs. Will you order some? And so I had reached out to my wholesaler in Alaska, which is Southern Glaciers, and they're notorious for not being super responsive to small brands. And the third time I reached out, I was so frustrated because they were doing it to me, and California was doing it to me, Oklahoma was doing it to me, Arizona was doing it to me. And so I sent a message that was like, seriously, guys, this is ridiculous. I've sent you emails on these dates with these timestamps, and you have responded to none of them. Answer my question. So the guy that's over Southern Glaciers for the whole state of Alaska got like, who is this, little shithead coming in and, and at the same time, my account manager reached out to his 2 biggest clients, but he copied me on it. And the biggest buyer in Alaska by far is Brown Jug. And so the guy that's over Southern Glaciers for the whole state was sending me FU nobody wants your product email, while his number 1 customer was sending an email to that guy and me saying, I love the Prideful Goat. I picked a single barrel and I want exclusivity for the limited editions for the state. And so I kind of got to gloat a little bit, I mean, I didn't say nothing, but I did a little dance in the living room, and like, take that. And he's, what's going on? I was like, God, don't worry about it. It's whiskey bull crap. So yeah, so that's exciting. But part of the deal was I have to go to Alaska to do some bottle signings whenever they do the barrel release, and that got approved by the distillery.
Cool.
When are you going?
Well, I just found out their bottling is on Wednesday, and so I've sent a message to Glaciers and Brown Jug and said, if your bottles are ready for pickup on this date, how long do you need to make sure they're in market so that I can go ahead and start booking my travel plan? So I'm guessing it's probably going to be in April, if I had to guess.
Anchorage or Fairbanks?
Anchorage for sure, and I don't know if we'll spend time anywhere else. That'll kind of be up to the wholesaler of like where they book me. There was also another single barrel that got picked up there, and apparently it's not sold out, and they want some market support. So I'm supposed to do some meet the maker events with that store chain too. But I'm trying to make all of my trips like midweek, because when you look at my calendar, like every weekend is booked.
Is the sun up in Alaska yet in April?
No.
I don't know. I asked them about that, and they were like, it's fine. We know how to deal with it. And I'm like, okay, say so.
That may be conducive to drinking bourbon, though, or rye.
Well, I like to drink bourbon and rye when it's cold out. So, it's fine.
And dark.
So we got Watershed coming up this weekend. Jamie, you're going, right?
Oh, yes.
And Todd, you're going to be there?
Nice.
Is anyone else going?
I'm sorry, what's Watershed?
Yes, we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there.
What?
He's on the.
What's Watershed? I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Oh, you might be new. So we do about probably 3-4 times a year. We do what we call distillery takeover.
Oh, okay.
And so we go to the distillery, King for the day, private tours. We usually cater in food.
Yeah, I knew about the one up in the one up in North Texas there, Sherman up in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that one in Denison was cool.
Denison, yeah. Where is this place? Watershed.
It's in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh,
And it's this weekend.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I am announcing to the world for the first time that we have our next distillery takeover booked. And it is, let me get the date, so I'm not lying to you all. It may not be the next one. I'm working on 2 right now. It is July the 27th at Frey Ranch.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome.
We are getting a corporate rate at the Grand Sierra Casino and Hotel. It's usually between $59 and $89 a night. We're gonna, unfortunately, if you haven't been to Frey Ranch, like the tour is cool and all that, but it's not a huge place and it's in the middle of nowhere. So we're not going to be able to cater in food while we're there and do all that stuff, right?
Where is that?
It's in Fulton,
Yeah.
Nevada. We'll be staying in Reno, but we'll have to drive about 45 minutes. I'm looking into getting, depending on how many people come, like getting a bus service back and forth, that way we don't have to drive back from Fulton. I mean, I've gone out there and done the barrel pick. Actually, when I went out there to do a barrel pick, we got Colby drunker than Cooter Brown. And there's a local pizza place that he likes to eat at. And so our whole crew, and it was funny because we were trying to get Ashley and him to go back to Nevada with us. And they were like, we just got back from a trip and our babysitter's here at the house, but we can't ask her to stay again because we've been putting a lot of pressure on her. And so me and Alex Baptista, like I was doing better financially then. Me and Alex Baptista were like, how much? What if we gave her $1,000? If we give her $1,000, will she watch the kids tonight? And Ashley's like, no, we can't do that. And so, but Colby was like, can I go?
You
And
said
so
that was July 26th?
Huh?
July 26th?
Yeah, let me double check.
Sorry.
Yeah. Damn it, I lost it.
Is that's the farm to market distillery, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that the barrel proof stuff that you had there?
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, somebody, I was at Total Wine the other day and somebody picked up
It's-
the last
It's
bottle.
July the 27th. It's a Saturday. So we'll have everyone flying on Friday. We'll stay at the Grand Sierra. It's the nicest casino hotel there. And it's not that nice compared to Vegas, but it's still nice. And we'll all hang out. The next day we'll go out, we'll do the barrel pick. Saturday night, I'm planning on having a Prideful Goat sponsored event. Someplace, I'm trying to get it at the Grand Sierra so we don't have to leave. And then we'll invite everybody who's a podcast viewer from all around to come and hang out with us. And the Prideful Goat to pick up the tab for everybody to have one drink on the goat. And then we'll probably, get up and eat brunch and then fly home on Sunday is the plan.
What's the nearest airport to there? Where would you fly into?
I don't remember what the Reno airport is.
Reno, it's Reno though.
Yeah. We'll be flying into Reno and we'll be staying in Reno.
Gotcha.
But I forget how long the drive is, like 45 minutes or an hour, something like that from Reno to get to Fulton. So it's not that bad. But yeah, we took Colby out drinking after we did our barrel pick, and then we all had to drive back to Reno. And by the time I made it back to Reno, I was everybody's like, let's go to the casino and party. And I was like, I might meet you down there. And then I went to bed. I couldn't hack it. But Wes and I got up the next morning and ate brunch. And then we went to play blackjack and had a good time before we had to fly out. So a good time was had by all. But that one's going to be a good trip. There's another one that I'm working on. Let me just ask you guys. So I reached out to Kenny and Ryan from Bourbon Pursuit about doing a Pursuit Spirits private select. Theirs are not technically single barrels because they buy whiskey from a bunch of different brands and then they blend them and then they put them back in the barrels. And then you pick one of those. So it's really a blend of straight whiskey and you're doing a private selection, but it doesn't make any difference to me. The whiskey's great. And so I'm talking with the barrel coordinator and I'm like, here's what we normally do. And it always comes down to how many people. Right. And so at Frey Ranch, we're going to have space for 20 people at the pick. Okay. So if you want to bring your spouse and they want to hang out at the casino and wait for us to get back, that's fine. But unless we have very little interest in people attending, we probably won't be able to have plus ones come to the actual distillery because they literally don't have space. Right. So I'm explaining all of that to the barrel coordinator from Pursuit United. And she's like, well, we normally limit it to 8. And I'm like, well, I'm like, we can do that, but a lot of people want to go to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. So I suspect that when I tell my patron group, like, we can do this barrel pick, a lot of people are going to want to go on this one. And I was like, what if we broke it up into 2 tours? And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, sometimes what we'll do is we'll have however many you can fit in your tasting room. We'll have, you know, 10 people in a tasting room tasting. The other 10 people are on a private tour. Then we break. Everybody goes to lunch. Volunteers reset the tasting room, and then the two groups switch. And she said, well, if that happened, then we'd be able to accommodate as many as 40 people. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now we're talking. I said, I don't think I can get 40 people there. I said, but it would be really nice that, you know, when we did the first one in Kentucky, that pretty much everybody who wanted to go could go. And she was like, oh, okay. And then she goes, well, that'll be $135 per person. And I was like, I didn't think your bottles were that much. And she's like, oh, well, that's not for the bottles for the barrel. That's for the distillery tour. And she goes, now you do get the bottle your own experience. So you get to bottle your own while you're there. And I was like, well, I'm not sure that we would have like everybody prepay for that. That would be like an add-on that people would decide they wanted to do. I was like, is it free if you don't get your own bottle? And she goes, no, for the tour, it's $75 without the bottle. And I said, well, I'm used to distilleries like hosting us because they want exposure for their brand and they want to sell an entire barrel. I'm not used to like telling people they have to pay just to attend the barrel pick, and then later they're going to have to buy the bottle from the barrel that they picked. And she said, well, we've never done it like that. And I was like, if it's just the 8 people, is it like that? And she goes, well, yeah, but then there's no tour. And so what do y'all think about, what are y'all's thoughts?
And who is this you're talking to? Just the contact
barrel-
person?
The barrel coordinator.
I would like go above her.
Well, I mean, she said she's going to talk with Kenny. I didn't want to step on any toes, but you know,
It sounds like she doesn't actually know what you're asking.
Well, she's only been there 60 days, maybe 90. And
okay,
that sounds like she's confusing their bottle your own with a barrel pick.
right.
And which is because the bottle your own is $139, and that's basically a tour, and then you bottle your own. But a barrel pick, I mean, it seems like she's like, oh, you want to do the bottle your own instead of the barrel pick, and the tasting is $35. That's on the website. It's $35 to do a tasting.
Right.
And that's just to taste through everything they have. So,
I think she's talking about a 90-minute tour. I was like, we don't need a 90-minute tour.
I don't know what you'd see in 90 minutes there. It's tiny. It's a warehouse.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just a warehouse.
So yeah, I think she's hopefully Kenny will get her straightened out or get with you.
Yeah, maybe I'll text Kenny.
Yeah, he's super responsive. He usually I'll email him during the day and like at 11 o'clock at night. I know he's sitting there watching Tonight Show or whatever and returning email because he always responds by the end of the day.
Okay.
I think they're actually heading to DC this week, so it might take him a little bit longer to get back. They're launching in Maryland and DC this week.
Interesting.
Roger might be able to help out too.
Yeah.
Well, Roger's the one that put me in contact with her.
Oh.
But I mean, I guess I kind of came across as like a little arrogant, like, well, we don't pay. Like, you're lucky just to have us show up, and I didn't mean it like that, but
Right.
I'm like, normally you don't pay when you do your distillery visit to do the single barrel selection. And so I don't know. Let me reach out to Kenny and see.
Especially for a group that's 25,000 strong.
Right. Well, and I was going to try and do that like towards the end of April or maybe early May. And then we've got the other one at the end of July, and I'm sure I'll come up with something for the fourth quarter, even if I got to do something with the goat or, whatever. I'm trying to mix it up so we're, spread out across the country and not always doing stuff,
Did you ever hear anything back on Chattanooga?
I
Chattanooga at one point.
I hadn't talked with Chattanooga about a pick for Patreon. But aren't their single barrels like $100?
Not sure.
I don't think so.
They're not.
60, 70. I think the last time I
Yeah.
bought one in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Yeah, I'm just nervous about, like, with Frey Ranch. I said, Patreon shrunk by about 33%. And even when we were at our peak, we weren't selling barrels out immediately. And so I told them, I said, what happens if we don't sell it out? And they're like, we don't care. They're like, if after a couple weeks, if you're done, you let us know and we just release it to our email database and it's gone that day. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's perfect. But that way everybody should be able to get what they want in Patreon in terms of single barrels. And I suspect we'll do the same thing with Watershed. But yeah, pretty excited about Watershed.
Yeah. Yeah, Wes is coming to that, isn't he?
Yes. So he'll be there. We fly in on Friday. We do, I think we do the largest or most complete Blanton's collection on Friday and Mash and Drum on Saturday morning. And then the barrel pick Saturday afternoon, the Patreon dinner Saturday night. And then Wes flies out Sunday morning. He's not going to the.
Oh, he's not coming up to Mansfield.
He's not drinking. So.
Oh, that's right.
When he told me he wasn't drinking and I hadn't booked airfare yet, I was like, well, there's no reason for me to drag you up an hour away from the airport when you could be at home with your family on Sunday and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
It could be your DD.
I won't. Well, actually, I have to drive to Kentucky after the bottle share, so I'm gonna have to take it easy. But I mean, you've seen me, Sammy, at the bottle shares I do at my house. I'm so busy talking, I don't even get to drink. So anyway, I drop him off at the airport on Sunday morning, and then I go to do a local television station program about suicide prevention. And then after that is the bottle share on Sunday. And then Monday morning, I've got to wake up in Kentucky. And we have Someone Say Whiskey has a single barrel selection of E.H. Taylor on Monday. Tuesday, there's a schedule, but I don't know what it is. And then Wednesday, I do market work for the Private Goat or Prideful Goat in Covington, and we're doing a free Prideful Goat event at Party Source's new bar Wednesday night, and then Thursday I do market work for the Prideful Goat in Louisville, and Thursday night we're doing a Prideful Goat sponsored event at Justin's House of Bourbon.
I'll be at that one.
And then Friday morning I fly home. So I'll be gone for a whole week.
Wow.
So you're not going to get it to go to Makers?
Maker's Mark? Huh?
You're not going to get it Makers? That's what I was wondering if you're going to get to go to your very.
I might go on Tuesday. I reached out to their PR department and they wouldn't answer any of my questions. Like, they never responded. And so I was so busy I wasn't able to try and integrate it into the plan, because Tuesday I'm supposed to be with the group from Someone Say Whiskey And, you know, one of those guys won the E.H. Taylor single barrel and gave it to us. Like, and part of our agreement is like, we're going to make sure you have a good time, right? We're going to set you up with all the cool stuff. You know, I'm texting Freddie Johnson and saying like, hey, this is our tasting time. Will you, if you're not the person that's at the tasting, will you at least come by and say hi, sign some bottles? You know, I'm reaching out to Bo Garrett for when we go to Wild Turkey. I'm like, we're trying to set everything up. And so what I didn't want to have happen is me have this golden ticket that no one else could come with me. And I run over to go redeem a golden ticket, which I honestly don't care that much about. And no one else can experience it. I just didn't want to leave the group for that. So we're still trying to figure that out, if we're going to go over there and try it or not. We'll see. But so yeah, that's that trip. There's been so many developments. I've been working my tail off trying to get everything scheduled.
If you guys don't get time to stop by Monday, that's all right.
No, that's in the schedule. That's done.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going.
Anybody on this call going to be?
I don't
on that
think
group?
that there's no, because the guy that won the barrel, he filled out the pick team except for me and Alex and one other person.
Oh, so Alex will be with you?
Yeah.
That'd be
It'll
cool.
be me and Alex. I'm guessing that Josh and Amanda Brace will be there too. So it'll be me, Josh, Amanda, and Alex Bautista. So we're excited to have a wind down spot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Where we don't have to entertain but relax.
Got a handful of arcade 1-ups out there for you guys. I think there's 7 or 8 of them in a pinball, and whatever y'all want in here, there's a second bar out there. So yeah, happy to have you guys.
Second bar, I like that. That's a good
It's a corner bar. It's not anything fancy.
it's all right. So I think that's most of the updates. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels 10 versus, why does it cost 2 or 3 times as much as like Russell's Reserve 10 or Eagle Rare 10? Why is it, what's so special about Jack Daniels 10 that people are paying $80 to $100 for a 700 milliliter bottle? Is it that much better? I mean, I haven't tried it, but I can't imagine it being that.
Where are you getting it for 80? That's I need to go there and
Well, that's another
just
source,
like to
a
find
source
it.
spot
That's
for me.
SRP, isn't it?
The only bottle I've
that's
ever
SRP,
seen,
yeah.
the only bottle I've ever seen was at Goody Goody, and it was in a bundle. You had to buy another $80 bottle of Midwestern cask finished rum rye whiskey or something. So basically, it would cost $160 to get one, but they were selling it for $79 if you bought the other bottle for $79. That's the only bottle I've ever seen.
I've never seen it in Kentucky, the 10 or the 12, since they released it.
I haven't seen it in Ohio either.
I don't know who's getting them. Plenty of people are, but
I got
I
my
never
10
seen
and my 12 both at Benny's in Chicago.
Figures, Jason.
I mean, Goody Goody had 2 bottles on their bundle table Saturday morning if you wanted to buy that other stuff. And I just don't need another random bottle. I just wanted to buy it. And I might have paid 80, but why is it really worth 80? I mean, Randy, I guess, you reviewed it, right?
I did.
Did you review batch 3, the new one?
Yeah.
Fred just reviewed it and he said it basically wasn't that great.
Who said that?
Fred Minnick.
Fred
Just came out today.
Yeah, I think Fred's wrong on that. I mean, it's good Jack Daniels. If I remember correctly, I liked the newer version more than the last year's. But we filmed that couple of weeks ago, so I might be getting confused there. But I think I like the batch stream more than the two. But $80 for a 10-year-old whiskey is cheap.
Well, how does Russell's and Eagle Rare do it?
Well,
Buffalo Trace and Russ, and I guess
it's a complicated question. So Russell's is able to do it because they planned to always have a 10-year age-stated SKU.
okay. So they've been
Right.
doing it for so long.
They've been doing it for so long.
They
Jack
can sell for
Daniels,
$35 and
Jack Daniels doesn't. You know, they had a very limited amount of stuff that they put in the, what do they call it, the buzzard's roost. There's like a top section of their aging warehouse that's like the real tip-top part, and they call it like the buzzard's roost. And that's where all of the single barrels come from, right? And so at some point years ago, they went, it's probably enough in the buzzard's roost. Let's pull that down and put it somewhere cooler and let it age to 10 years, and we'll release it. And so if you watch my podcast for long enough, you'll realize that price is a terrible indicator for flavor. Terrible. Price is more a function of supply and demand. And since Jack Daniels doesn't really have special releases until recently, and when they conceived of the idea of special releases, they had no idea how wildly popular they were going to be. Relative to some of the other legacy distillers, they're 10 years expensive. But if I were to release a 10-year bourbon right now, there is no scenario where it'd be less than $120 in the Prideful Goat. It's just mathematically, it cannot happen, right? And so when you compare it to Jack to Russell's was designed to be at that price and made on distillery equipment 10 years ago to be aged for that amount of time, and all of the costs associated with creating a 10-year were calculated way back then. And they're able to sell it at that low price and still make their margin as they have low production costs. Eagle Rare is as cheap as it is because they can't adjust their price to the market price. And they can't do that because they just doubled capacity. And when that new capacity comes online, if they killed their market demand with price increases, they would go bankrupt when all of that inventory needed to be sold to make that debt service payment to Wall Street. And so when you compare it to the price of Eagle Rare, that has to do with, planning for future supply and demand curve economics. And when you compare it to Russell's, it has to do with, the history of their cost and that they plan to do this. When you compare it to other newer distilleries, how much was the Woodford Double Oak retail? Or not Woodford, sorry, the 13th Colony Double Oak.
49, isn't it?
149 is what it was. And it's supposed to be a 10-year. Right. So
wasn't Eagle Rare even talking about, weren't they talking about dropping the 10-year statement there for a while?
Oh, yeah. They threatened that years ago, and they even moved the age statement from the front label to the back label, and then they just never dropped it. So it's still on the back label, but that's the progression. If you want to drop an age statement, you move it from the front to the back label, and then quietly one day you remove it from the back label and hope that no one notices. So
I was just curious. I mean,
start calling it Super 10, but it's not really 10 years.
Right. What other questions you got?
Hey, Randy, have you seen this, the House of Bardstown stuff going on?
Mm-mm.
So Bardstown's doing events in Louisville, Nashville, and Dallas. It's called House of Bardstown. And the Louisville event is this coming Friday. So Cheryl and I got invitations to it. And I'll tell you about it if it's worth it or not, because we're going to be there Friday night and then heading to Columbus Saturday morning. So, but it's supposedly it's like a 3-hour event where they feed you and they give you and go through everything they're working on, tasting food kind of thing. So we'll see how it goes. But I think the Dallas event's supposed to be in the first of the summer.
Okay. Yeah,
Have
I
you got the
went
link to that, or can you put the link to it in the? I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, let me see if it's still live. I can. Earlier I went to it. And it was
Put it-
down.
Yeah, put it in the chat. If it's in Dallas, that'd be interesting.
I went to a BBC event in Dallas at a rooftop bar when Colby was a finalist in their tasting competition during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all remember that? Colby Howard, he was one of the moderators of Someone Say Whiskey, and he entered their, best taster in the world competition that they administered mostly online. Well, towards the end, they did like this tour, and they went to the cities of some of the different tasters and all that stuff. And they held an event on a rooftop bar, and it was really cool. What's the girl's name?
I found it.
Is it Melissa, their brand ambassador? Real tall blonde girl. We went to when Colby was still talking with him a lot because he's part of that tasting thing. We were driving into Kentucky and we decided to stop there and eat dinner. And we got there right before they closed, and they were saying they didn't have space. And then Colby called ahead and said, like, hey, it's Colby from the tasting competition. They're like, all right, come on in. We'll find a space for you. And she ended up taking us on a private tour before they had set up that library where all of the vintage bottles are. Have y'all seen that library?
In the one Rick house?
No, it's down a hallway from their restaurant, and there's you walk in, there's a big conference table, and then the whole room from floor to ceiling is shelving, and it's all filled with vintage bottles. And so when you look at that big vintage bottle list there that you can get pours of stuff from pre-prohibition and all that stuff, it's all in that room. But before they built that room, it was in like a back storage room off of the kitchen on like rickety metal shelves from Home Depot. And the Bardstown Bourbon Company girl, I think her name is Melissa. I can't remember. She took us back there and was letting us dig around. And they had a red wax pappy that was the lawsuit pappy.
Oh, yeah.
She had like stiletto heels on, and she had been drinking. And she folded out this fold-out chair to stand up to get the red wax pappy down to show us. And like the whole chair was shaking. And I was standing there like, am I going to have to kiss this chick? But we got to see some cool bottles. And I fell in love with Bardstown Bourbon Company's fried chicken that day.
Now, hopefully you had the poutine, because that's where it's at.
I'm all about the pan fried chicken. Like when I'm going to Kentucky, that's what I think about. Like, yeah, I'm going to Buffalo Trace. Yes, I'm going to pick a single barrel. But when are we going to Bardstown so I can have that fried chicken? Like, that's what I'm a fried chicken man. I love fried chicken. So.
Well, I got to run, guys. It's good to see y'all. I'm glad I got to jump on here finally.
Yeah.
Meet everybody, and we'll see you on Monday.
I'll see you in 1 week.
All right.
Yep.
See y'all.
Good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Anybody
Randy,
else?
you need somebody to go with you to Alaska. Can count me in as long as it's not during the eclipse.
No. Yeah, you know what? I haven't even figured out if I'm taking Lindsay.
I can show you some pretty cool bars in Anchorage.
Well, I'm gonna be with old Pappy J-Mo
Yeah.
for a lot of it. And
I told them since my kids are moving to Fairbanks, where he's at, and I was like, I'll be bringing you some stuff from down here you can't get.
how far is Fairbanks from Anchorage?
Oh, it's 6 hours, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna have me in two different areas or not.
Well, if the winter's bad, you won't be able to get there. You have to fly.
Yeah, I figure Alaska is a big ass place.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what they're gonna do with me, because they have a whole separate thing going on in Juneau.
Yeah.
The wholesaler does, and so I don't know. Man, I broke into that Frey Ranch. Is that the Someone Say Whiskey pick?
Yeah. This is yours, Jamie?
No, mine's locked up with bourbons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got into that Someone Say Whiskey pick the other day, and I was like, God dang it. Why do I drink anything but Frey Ranch? This is so damn good.
I know.
Yeah.
And so I had a conference call with Ashley and a guy named Mike that he does some of their like brand work and barrel coordination and stuff about doing the single barrel. Because last year when they sponsored the podcast, I said, if you want, I'll bring my Patreon group there. We'll do a single barrel and it'll offset some of your costs for sponsoring the podcast. And they said, oh, we're all sold out of single barrels this year, but we'll put you on the list for next year. And I had forgotten about it. And so Mike sent me a message and he was like, hey, you're up for a single barrel. Do you still want it? And I was like, oh, perfect. And so we scheduled a conference call and I didn't know Ashley was going to be on, and she was. And while we were talking, Colby came walking into the room and he's like, oh, Randy. He's like, I found your whiskey at like this local teeny tiny liquor store. And I was like, yeah, we just got distribution in Nebraska. He's like, dude, I was so excited. I grabbed the bottle and I took it up to the owner and I was like, I know this guy. Like, that's how I feel about you, bro.
You get to see Mia and Mike today?
Do what?
Did you see Mia and Mike from Melnick today?
No, were they in town?
Yeah, they're in Dallas.
No.
Mia's traveling all the Total Wines, checking out her selections.
Were they doing bottle signings or anything? Or
I think so. She's crazy excited about that Texas distribution.
Yeah, they signed with my wholesaler, Maverick. So hopefully it works out for everybody.
Did you see that SLB review of the 8-year?
I did. Trenton, it was funny because Trenton, I've reached out to them a couple times and they never really responded. And so I sent an email that was like, hey, y'all reviewed the goat before, I think, and I have media bottles for you if you want them. And it took a couple days, but Trenton was like, yeah, I'll take them. And so he sent me the message and I said, all right, give me the address. And I'm a realtor, so I looked the house up and I was like, Jesus Christ. They live in a 7,000 square foot house.
Oh,
Interesting.
And I was like, wow, okay. Now I see what's going on here. And so I didn't really give them any information or whatever. I just sent them the bottles, and I got my numbers in all my correspondence. So I got a text message and it's like, hey, it's Trenton from SLB. He's like, we're about to record this. Like, what's the SRP for these? And so I answered, and then
oh, come on.
it was out the next day. The video was. And I was like, wow. And people started messaging it to me. And I mean, I didn't love it. The dad was like, I wish it were $70. And I'm like, going from $94.99 to $70 would, like, I'd have to give it to the wholesaler and then everybody else can make it. But yeah, it was, I was pretty excited about that. Let's see if, there you go. You back on?
Yeah, I was like, go figure, I missed that.
Yeah. No, so I answered the questions about like what the SRP was to Trenton, and then the video was out the next day.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what their production schedule was or anything. But we also sent media bottles to, so somebody did a post in BRTC about like, what's your favorite YouTube channels? And so I just went through that and looked at the most common answers, and I just reached out to all of those different channels. And I think almost everyone said yes. So Fred Minnick has bottles, Bruzel, Bourbon Junkies, Whiskey Tribe, obviously SLB, me, and Bourbon Kingdom.
Bourbon King.
Yeah. And they're a little bit smaller, but when you scroll through that, man, there were a lot of people that said that they liked their reviews. So
Yeah. Yeah, they're a couple good guys.
yeah, so we sent all of those. So hopefully there'll be reviews coming out from all those guys, but obviously it's not required. I mean, when I reached out to Fred, he was like, it's not guaranteed that I'll do the review. And I'm like, I know, Fred.
He's awful proud.
He should be. He's part of the reason why I'm in this, to be quite honest. Not only did he inspire me with all of his, writing and education and whatnot, but I used to listen to him on Bourbon Pursuit. And when I first started the podcast, I released something that started getting a lot of hate in Houston Bourbon Society. And he was a member at the time. And he jumped in the fray and started defending me. And then he sent me a private message that said, hey, man, this is just the way it is. Don't let them get you down. If you ever need anything, here's my cell phone number.
Nice.
And so I get a little defensive when people are ugly to Fred, because I'm like, he's the OG. He's, don't throw rocks at the throne. He was one of the first bourbon writers, he's been educating all of y'all since before it was cool to like bourbon. So I do love Fred, but he can be a little busier.
I like bits and pieces of bourbon. I like on Bourbon Pursuit. I like the snippet he does at the beginning. Beyond the Charge. Those are good. But to sit and watch a 20-minute video, you're just kind of like, oh gosh, it's a bit. So I've read all his books. It's just he's just a bit much to take all at once. But I do watch his top 100 every year. So
do you?
Yeah. I just like to watch him get drunk and just start on by the end he's just schnockered.
Right.
Now you're gonna pick the best one, and then he picks two. What was the two this year? Two of the the Heaven Hill products. Larson.
Yeah.
Two of the Larsons are in his top 3. So
yeah. Yeah, trying to rank 100 of anything is insane. It's I can't do it. I couldn't imagine doing it. But I did defend him because people were saying, he kept saying he was a professional and blah blah blah, and I was like, Nancy Fraley told me in private that she tastes 150 cash strength single barrels a day.
that's great.
She's not drinking them.
Right.
But she tastes them. And so, yeah, I mean, if you are in the industry, you can develop your palate, and be able to parse that many. I can't do it. I've done 25 in a day. And I mean, that was hard to do 25 cash strength single barrels in a day, even not swallowing. It's tough. Now I can do maybe as many as 8 or 9 real fast. But if you give me a second round of 8 or 9, my palate's fatigued and I've got to spend more time on it. And, it just becomes harder. So, the casino is Grand Sierra Resort Casino.
My wife's already excited about Frey Ranch and everything.
Okay. Well, don't book anything because we're getting a corporate rate.
Okay.
So apparently they refer to I think they refer to the casino as GSR, Grand Sierra Resort. And GSR has the same publicist. What's funny is that when things freeze up for Jamie, we still have audio and video for a little bit after he does it. And so we always get to see him like, oh, come on. Anyway, so GSR has the same publicist as Frey Ranch. And the publicist is the one that hooks Frey Ranch's single barrel people up with the corporate rate, even though they're not committing to a large enough room block. So that's why we're getting it for so cheap.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I thought would be cool. So Jamie, you don't know this. We just had a good laugh. So every time your computer freezes up for you, we still have audio and video from you for a few seconds. And so we get to see you every time go, oh, come on, before it shuts off. I think you're on mute.
All right, guys. Good night. I'm going to say good night.
Good night, James.
Talk to you
Night,
guys later.
James.
See ya.
Good night.
Yeah, Jamie's on mute. Yeah, you can't turn the mic here.
There you go.
There we go.
There we
All right,
go.
now you're on.
There we go. I forgot I didn't hit that.
That's all right. All right, it's getting kind of late. Anybody got anything else before we jump off?
And there it went again.
He's frozen again.
There we go. again.
There it goes again. Anybody got anything else before we jump off?
Just see you Saturday.
Yeah,
Have a safe trip.
I will. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah,
am-
we took Monday off to recoup. Since we
Oh,
got
did you?
this weekend, we're gonna hang out at home Monday and treat it as our Sunday. So
Yeah, I'm gonna end up drinking every day professionally for 7 days in a row. So
maybe
we'll
the
see.
liver, possibly.
I'll have the weekend to recover. So
Yeah.
What time is the bottle share on Sunday?
4:30 at the Buckeye Imagination Museum.
You gonna
The-
live stream any of it?
We might. So I had asked Wes like if he can leave a set of equipment with me that I can get some good audio and video with.
I guess
And so I bought like a setup to go on the camera that I have and plug the mic directly into the SLR.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my mic requires phantom power or something.
Yes.
And so he said that he's got a setup with a boom mic that he can leave me so we can get some decent stuff. So we may record some bonus material if something hits right. We may record a whole episode. I'm sure we'll do some live streaming. Everybody's free to live stream from the bottle share. So if we want to do some live streams from there into BRTC, I think that'd be great. But yeah, I think we'll do a little bit of all that, or at least I hope we do.
Cool.
So, all right, guys. Well, I am going to shut it down. I love you all. I appreciate everyone that got on the call and everybody who is going to be watching this in replay. So thank you so much for the support.
See you guys.
guys, good night.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right.